deadline of May 15th. Anything that comes in after the application deadline needs to be approved by the commission. The existing rule was it had to be upon a showing of extraordinary circumstances. There's going to be a rule change in about a week that gives the commission more discretion to accept late audits with conditions or corrective action if extraordinary circumstances are absent. This year we received 12 requests for extension past the May 15th deadline. I've highlighted on the screen, these are the first 6, and then I'll go through the next 6, but we've received the final audits from the majority of organizations that requested an extension at this point. So of the 12, we only have 4 that are still outstanding, and those are bolded for you. So one is IOLTA, which is a new applicant. They've requested an extension date of June 30th. Center for Human Rights and Constitutional Law. They requested June 15th, but we haven't received their audit yet. They've indicated as of yesterday that they're reviewing the final draft, so hopefully we should be able to get it shortly. Coalition of California Welfare Rights Organizations requested an extension through June 30th. And Legal Assistance for Seniors requested an extension through today. So the Eligibility and Budget Review Committee met last week. They reviewed all of the letters we received from these applicants about the reasons they needed an audit extension. And those letters were also included in the materials for your review. The committee recommended approving the audit extensions for those that we've already received. And then for these applicants that I've highlighted that still have pending audits, they're recommending an extension through June 30th at the latest, which is the last date most of them have requested. And the reasoning for that is because staff needs to have enough time to not only allow the grantee or the applicant to make updates to the record, but for staff to review and confirm it before making a recommendation to you all in August on eligibility determinations. So, sorry. So that's the recommendation is for those we've already received, that the commission would grant that extension request and accept the audits we've already received, and for those still pending through June 30th with no further extension past that date. I do just want to make clear, if an applicant were to miss that June 30th deadline, if that's what you approve, that would mean that if there's no further extension, that's an essential part of the application is incomplete, and so they would be recommended as ineligible for funding.
I move the resolution.
Second.
That was Will.
I'll do roll
Go
call.
ahead.
Willie
Aglaji.
Bush.
Yes. Ball.
Yes.
Whitemaster. Blakemore. Bushelli.
Yes.
Campbell.
yes,
Escobedo. Galkin. Biskin.
Yes.
King.
yes,
Judge Klein.
Yes.
Cruz. Lee.
yes,
Mahoney.
yes,
Beaker.
yes,
Milrod.
yes,
Morales.
yes,
Vargas. Alsaroff.
Yes.
Connolly.
Yes.
Schreiber.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thanks. Then I'll move on to the next item, which is previously unapproved 2020 and 2021 IOLTA EAF carryovers and budget deviations that we learned of during 2022 monitoring visits. Background on that, anything in terms of a budget deviation or carryover that's over 25% requires commission approval. Between 10 and 25% staff can typically approve. We had an instance with California Women's Law Center during their monitoring visit last year, where we learned of carryover amounts that had not been approved by the commission previously. So as you can see, in 2020, there was a 42% carryover. There was a 31% carryover for EAF. In 2021, they had an approved carryover, but they actually carried over more than what they had reported initially. And then they also had budget deviations in 2021 for both IOLTA and EAF that amounted to 17%, which would have been staff approved at the time had it been submitted. But because it is so late and after the fact, that's why it's being brought to the commission. This was something that was raised with the organization during their monitoring visit. They acknowledged in the case of the 2021 instance that They had made mistakes, but they were working to improve their processes to make sure that they believed they had submitted a 2020 carryover, but we don't have record of that. But again, they recommitted to making sure that they follow the necessary protocols. And if you recall, in March, we brought a similar instance with, I think, about 3 other organizations, and the recommendation was to approve all of these due to some lack of clarity previously with carryovers and budget deviation requirements, and as well as to put the organization on notice that if this were to recur, it would not be approved. But at this juncture, given at this late date, it would be too much of a burden to try to recoup the funds at this point. So the recommendation is to approve those late carryovers and budget deviations, but also to provide a formal warning to California Women's Law Center that future deviations and carryovers that aren't reported won't be approved.
The resolution.
Wait, can I ask a quick question?
And I understand, a member of the public has a hand raised.
Okay, wait, John, just procedurally, there's a motion that's been made, so I want to make sure that there's a second, then we can have this discussion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Angie. Okay, question from Erica.
I'm just curious if their board has been involved in any of this. Has there been any notification beyond? the staff?
The board chair receives a copy of the monitoring memorandum at the time it's issued, and so at a minimum, their board chair has been notified. I'm not sure if there's been discussion with their full board on it.
Okay, thank you. That's all I need to know.
Public member have a comment?
Yes, actually, this is Betsy Butler. I'm the executive director of the California Women's Law Center. And just wanted well, first of all, yes, my board's very aware. In fact, they were quite involved in writing the response that you have before you, or that hopefully you have before you. And I just wanted to thank the State Bar for their support, and also to underscore the fact that we are making sure these situations don't happen again. The 2020 carryover, of course, 2020 was a very difficult year. We did submit the Q5 and Q6. So we, until it was found in the audit, we really didn't know we'd done anything wrong, and we'd followed, previous protocols. So, I just want to say it was an extraordinarily hard time. And we were struggling quite a bit in 2020 and actually 2021 as well. But we're most appreciative of the State Bar. We have, as I've heard the discussion today, we all know the needs are great. And we appreciate the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission's recommendation to not have us return the funds. We're grateful for that. And we, of course, are doubling down our efforts to make sure we don't miss deadlines in the future or have any inconsistencies. So again, I appreciate the recommendation and happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Betsy. Any other comments? If not, we will call the roll.
We have
We have a second as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aglagi,
Yes.
Ball,
Yes.
Whitemaster, Blakemore, Bushelli,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Escobedo, Galkin, Iskin,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Judge Klein,
Yes.
Cruz, Lee,
Yes.
Mahoney,
Yes.
Meeker,
Yes.
Milrod,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Vargas, Al-Saraf,
Yes.
Connolly,
Yes.
Schreiber.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Chris, are you here? I haven't seen it.
Chris McConkey is here.
He's right there. He's on the second page.
Hi.
Oh, there's a second page. Welcome.
If there's time on the agenda for item 7.1, I can probably do it in about 2.5 minutes, but it's also okay. And I defer to you, Christian and Dwan, if it still makes sense.
For seven,
It's actually 8-1.
you're
now.
8-1.
It's 7-1. You're then you're off.
The annotated agenda is one off, I think. Yeah, but, yeah.
Got it. Yes, if you want to briefly take us through what's going on
Great.
there.
I'll share my screen, and this is Carryover grant making update, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure. Okay, I'll be very quick. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris McConkey. I'm Program Supervisor in OANI. This is just an update on Senate Bill 101, which will become the Budget Act of 2023 once the governor signs it, and the update pertains to 2023 Care Court Grant Awards. I had this slide as just a quick background, but I won't read it all because we're pressed for time. I'll just remind the commission that this is a brand new court program that launches on October 1st for 7 counties, and it launches on December 1 of this year for Los Angeles, and then all the other counties in California will be going in December of 2024. So there are 8 counties worth of QLSP support centers and public defenders that will need funding this year. So pending the governor's signature, Senate Bill 101 will become the Budget Act, and it provides, quote, at least $20,400,000 for qualified legal services projects and public defenders to represent respondents in care court. The commission will be making those awards to QLSPs. Any money that doesn't go to QLSPs will go to public defenders' offices. The budget bill provides up to $1,020,000 for support centers to provide legal training and technical assistance to implement the CARE Act. And then it also provides for the administrative costs of making these grants, administering dollars to public defenders, and facilitating their reporting back to the Judicial Council and ultimately the legislature. So I'm going so quick, but this is a very quick slide deck. There's basically 2 things I wanted to make sure you saw. One is that the budget bill does provide a role for the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission and State Bar to collect and report data from public defenders. So I just pasted the text on there. I'll just say out loud just a snippet of it. The commission will be responsible for collecting outcome data, much like it does now for QLSPs and SCs, but also for public defenders this time. It will need to provide that data annually, and just generally speaking, it should be in a manner that's consistent with what the Judicial Council needs to report for the Care Court program, but also consistent with what the commission already collects from QLSPs and support centers. I will flag that the Office of Access and Inclusion did ask the Department of Finance if it might be the governor's office's expectation that the commission be exercising like a monitoring role for public defenders, much like it does for QLSPs and SCs, sort of an open question. We're still waiting for an answer on that, but just the question occurred to us because we will be collecting data from them. So that's something we'll be sure to report back to you on as soon as we know. And then this is, I think, my second to last slide. So basically just the commission delegated authority to its new Care Court Grants Committee to approve an RFP and make these award recommendations to the commission in August. And so the committee will be meeting on Tuesday to discuss and approve the RFP. And this is my last slide. It has the funding allocation broken down by county. And as a point of reference, it has the number of Care Court cases that the governor's office is expecting in each county, so you can kind of see how the funding compares to the case numbers. Those who serve on the Care Court Grants Committee are going to get a really nice long presentation and lots of opportunity to ask questions and discuss it, but I regret that the full commission will need to wait until the committee comes back with a full report and recommendation in August. I don't want to take up any more time because I think we're running short.
Thanks, Chris. Just I'll see you next month. I saw I think next month. I saw the meeting invite. This is just something to put on the radar for everybody because this is obviously going to be a large stream of money, but there's a rather small subscription of programs, as Chris is noting, thus far. So we shall see how that plays out. But thanks for buzzing through that, Chris. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Pick that up soon. We've got an HP2 report.
Not the report, it's the approve the 2021-2022 HP grant allocation.
Yeah,
So I have a question. It looks like this is a zero-sum game. This is not formulaic, and Central California Legal Services is one of the grantees. So I wonder if I should recuse myself from the entire conversation, or just from the vote?
Just from the vote.
Just from the vote, and only if it's like, if CCLS comes up, just for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we need to approve the grant reallocation, but there's a,
Jennifer and Chris. will
yeah,
take this
are
together.
you, where is Jennifer here? Are you
I'm
on
here.
page two?
I'll share my screen.
Here we go. Thank you.
So we're gonna, just so I'm clear, we're going to skip agenda item 8.1 entirely.
Yes, the report we're skipping.
Okay, pardon my quick scrolling. Okay, so my name is Jennifer Zelnick. I'm a senior program analyst in the Office of Access and Inclusion, and this is agenda item 8.2 to approve the 2021 to 2023 Homelessness Prevention, or HP2, formula grant reallocations. We'll go through some background, the reallocation process, reallocation recommendations, and the resolution. So California Government Code Section 12531 allocated $31 million for homelessness prevention legal aid. 75% went to formula grants after administrative costs, and that went to 71 grants, and 25% after administrative costs went to 12 competitive grants. The grant period is January 1, 2021 to December 31, 2023. At this time, grantees have reported on their spending through December 31st, 2022, which is 2/3 of the grant period. Okay, so because the committee directed staff to redistribute AJALC's HP2 formula award, staff felt that it was prudent to contact all HP2 formula grantees to invite them to think about whether they were concerned about spending down their grant and to consider voluntarily reallocating some funds if they had such concerns. And this, of course, came about because AJALC, or I'm sorry, Asian Americans Advancing Justice, Asian Law Caucus, failed to spend funds or complete grant work for the first 2 years of their grant, and then failed to submit a spend down plan for their third year. So on April 3rd, grantees submitted their second annual HP2 report, which allowed staff to confirm that some grantees reported underspending. As a result, staff emailed 14 grantees who reported spending 60% or less of their HP2 formula funds, and invited them to voluntarily reallocate some funding if they had spend down concerns. So staff notified eligible HP2 formula grantees about the reallocation, and then they reran the formula for just those eligible grantees. This number was 67, and that number comes from the total universe of 71 formula grantees, minus, of course, AJALC, as well as Greater Bakersfield Legal Assistance, who volunteered to return $30,000, and Legal Aid Society of San Diego County, who volunteered to return $50,000. So with AJALC's entire award, there's a total of $331,271 in HP2 formula funds for redistribution. And then finally, AIDS Legal Referral Panel was considered ineligible because they had a 2-year HP2 formula grant that concluded on December 31st, 2022. In total, 32 grantees opted in to receive additional HP2 formula funds out of those eligible. Staff then reran the formula for just those 32 grantees, and everyone confirmed that they opted in to accept the higher formula reallocation amounts. This is a brief reallocation timeline. As you can see, today we are hoping that the commission will approve the reallocation amounts and budgets. As a note, the committee recommended staff to review budget revisions and present recommendations to the commission due to time constraints and the need to get funds out to grantees as soon as possible. Additionally, although funds will be dispersed in late July, the committee recommends that grantees be allowed to use these funds retroactively to January 1st, 2023. This will give grantees a bit more flexibility to use the funds for the final calendar year, of the grant, rather than limiting it to roughly half a year. And this will ensure that grantees who opted into the reallocation can most effectively spend down these additional dollars. So all 32 reallocated budgets resulted in a 3.5% increase from the original award amount. and these are self-approving. As a note, organizations may always accept lower awards or return funds if they're concerned about spend down. However, staff did review these requests because GBLA's and LASSD's budget reduction requests also included minor budget revisions. GBLA's original HP2 formula award was $449,757. Their budget reduction resulted in a reduced total award amount of $419,757, or 6.67% of a reduction, as well as a 13.52% total budget revision. Again, the budget reduction was self-approving, and staff approved the budget revision. LASSD's original HP2 formula award was $739,260. Their $50,000 budget reduction resulted in a total award amount of $689,260. This reduction equals a 6.67% reduction and a 19.94% total budget revision. Again, LASSD's budget reduction was self-approving and staff approved its budget revision. Staff checked all 32 grantees receiving HP2 formula reallocations, as well as GBLA and LASSD, to ensure that their revisions maintained personnel and administrative percentages at or below the 75% threshold, moved funds reasonably, and only included reasonable capital additions requests. So as you can see, these are the reallocation recommendations for the first half of grantees. The largest reallocation goes to Disability Rights California with just over $88,000. And the smallest allocation is actually found across a few grants and is for $1,769, as you can see here as well. And now the resolutions, unless there are questions. Okay, so should the commission concur with the committee's proposal, passage of the following resolution is recommended.
Jennifer, hold on one second.
I just wanted to add that this is one of the first times that we're coming across where we have organizations notifying us that they're unable to spend down, have concerns, and we're welcoming this, the communication, and so that we can reallocate to those who are letting us know that they're eager to get more funding and there is need, so that we can spend down to avoid having to return funds to the funding source. In this instance, the end of the grant period is at the end of this year. So we very much welcome this and will likely be seeing a bit more of this, knowing that there have been spend down challenges maybe across other grants. Just wanted to give the commission kind of that heads up.
Thank you, Rocio. That's, yeah.
I think, is there any amendment to the resolution that's on the screen? Jennifer, is that the resolution?
Nope, that's the resolution.
So why don't we, I'll entertain a motion for the resolution that's on the screen.
I'll move.
Thank you,
I'll
Jen.
second.
Thank you.
Roll
Erica?
call. Aglagi,
Yes.
Ball,
Yes.
Fightmaster, Blakemore, Boshelli,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Escobedo, Galkin, Iskin,
Yes.
yes, Klein,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Mahoney,
Yes.
Meeker,
Yes.
Milrod,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Vargas, Alsaroff,
Yes.
Connolly,
Yes.
Schreiber.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I think we're just going to jump down to 10.1. Laura, Judicial Council Liaison Report.
Hi, I have nothing to report other than Judicial Council staff continue to work with State Bar staff on our reporting requirements for HP consumer debt and IOLTA partnership grants. So nothing else to report.
Okay. Lauren, anything else from you?
No, nothing major to report other than we're continuing to work with the Trust Fund Commission on gathering input for things like rules revision, and LAC is very excited to be a recipient of the State Bar's DEI Leadership Seal program. We're definitely going to encourage other programs, other legal aid programs to follow suit.
Okay. Anything that we skipped? Okay. by the skin of our teeth, 3:58. Thanks, everybody. I expect we will see you in July, but we will cross that bridge when we come to it. Thank you for your time and contributions today. Thanks again. Welcome aboard, Maria. And I'll see everybody quite soon, I'm sure. All right, have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Hi, everyone.